Jorge Masvidal went from the biggest star in the UFC in 2019 to now fighting in shady boxing promotions in hopes of returning to the UFC. 2019 was his year. He had that insane knockout of Darren Till after being out all of 2018, then had one of the most viral knockouts of all time in his fight with Ben Askren, and now he had the biggest fight of his life to date against Nate Diaz. It was definitely the biggest fight of 2019, especially from a fan standpoint, because so many people are Nate Diaz fans, and Jorge gained his own fans after those two amazing, spectacular knockouts. And everyone swore up and down Nate Diaz was going to be the toughest fight for him. Everyone said, Nate Diaz a dog. Nate Diaz a dog. But Jorge proved everybody wrong. This fight also birthed the BMF belt as well, which has only been put on the line two more times, since this fight. So it got created 5 years ago, and in 5 years, it only got put on the line 2 times. So many people hated the belt, the look of the belt, the thought of the belt, especially because so many belts are what ruined boxing. People thought, hey, this might ruin MMA as well, but I actually liked it, the look and the thought of it. It just put extra stakes up for a fight that kind of needed it. Jorge definitely had his way with him in this fight. All 3 rounds that were fought, you can make the argument, were all 10-8s, proving that he is one of the best in the world, and taking that year off, going in, taking that reality TV show in stride where he was left alone and isolated on an island for months on end, did him well, because now he is a bona fide legit contender at the time. I mean, this fight was literally like a GTA 5 type of fight. I mean, this fight had all the weirdos banding together thinking that this was the greatest fight ever. This fight had all the casuals thinking that they could step in there and fight as well. But nonetheless, one of the biggest fights of 2019. And everyone swore to God that Jorge was going to have the biggest year of his career, in which he kind of did, although it also created his downfall. He took the fight with Kamaru Usman, the welterweight champion at the time, on 6 days' notice, got 50-45 to cross all 3 judges' scorecards. Hey, no big deal. He took that fight on 6 days' notice. Anyone would have probably lost that fight if they took it and had to do a whole weight cut on top of that fight all the way across the world. He had every excuse in the book, which led to him getting the rematch almost a year later, April 2021, in which he got absolutely sparked by Kamaru Usman in a very extremely devastating way. Then he fought his former friend and roommate, Colby Covington, in a fight that he was totally outmatched and outclassed, got 50-45 to cross all 3 judges' scorecards, and this was the fight where Jorge truly met his demise. This was the fight where everyone saw through the fake facade and where people thought, man, he isn't as good as he once was. This is where so many people jumped off the Jorge bandwagon, especially when he got arrested after the fight for assaulting Colby Covington on the street. Like, dude, you had 25 minutes within the legalities of mixed martial arts rules, and you go out there and assault a man that whooped your ass? Doesn't make any sense. Didn't fight the rest of the year of 2022. Then fought Gilbert Burns, lost that fight 30-27 across all 3 judges' scorecards, and then abruptly retired. But after that retirement, he asked his release from the UFC, only to go and box a man that he already fought, the guy who he got his last win over, Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal boxed, and I found it extremely weird that they were boxing because their first fight ended in so much controversy. They should have ran it back in MMA. They should have ran it back in the UFC. But no, they decided to run it in boxing. I don't know what Jorge was thinking. Maybe because he thought Jake Paul was calling him out that he was going to be the new face of boxing. But that led to their boxing match. And not only that, Jorge lost that boxing match. Oh, and not only that, he never got paid for that boxing match, which is now leading him to a road back down to wanting to fight in the UFC once again. It's very strange how his career went. The downfall of it truly needs to be studied because he had 1 year. Like Colby said, he caught lightning in the bottle. And now he basically had no idea what he was doing outside of the octagon, wanted to go box, and that just made him look even worse. Lately, I've been looking back on Jorge's career since 2019, and he's fought 15 rounds. He fought 5 rounds against Usman. We'll count 2 more rounds against Usman, even though he got knocked out in the second. We'll count 5 more against Colby, and then 3 against Gilbert Burns. That's 15 rounds. Out of those 15 rounds, he won only 1, and that was the 4th round in which he dropped Colby Covington. He hasn't won a fight since. It's been 5 years. And now he's basically fighting for clout. It's insane.